a scientist by training, a manager by profession, and a learner by choice. Kalyani works for a healthcare startup where she often wears multiple hats and multitasks from tech to HR to operations. She has a PhD in biochemistry and a postdoctoral experience from IISc Bangalore. She has driven multiple healthcare projects in B2B and B2C segments over years. Besides work, she loves traveling and exploring the world. I'm sure she must be missing that now. She believes the best way to get started is to quit talking and begin doing. I would like to welcome Kalyani. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Meeta. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. I would start sharing my screen. Yeah, just let me know, Meeta, if the screen is visible to all of you.
Yes, it is. You may start in a presentation mode.
Right. Okay.
Perfect.
So is it visible?
Yes, it is.
Meeta, can you see the presentation in full screen mode? Great.
Yes.
So, well, good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here and talking about a topic that we all know about, something that we have been hearing extensively in the past 1 decade. Personalization has taken a forefront everywhere in all the streams of life that we are currently engaging in. So just to start with, I'll just start with the basic definition that Wikipedia gave me. Yeah. So what is personalization? To design or produce something. It could be a good, it could be a product, it could be a service that meets an individual's requirement. This is the definition that Wikipedia was giving me, but to cut it short, personalization is all about connecting with your user on a personal basis. So when you create that personal connect with your user, that is where you are truly personalizing the experience for them. So before we go forward, I'll quickly do a small exercise. We'll take a small poll here. I'll show you this image here. You can see this image on your screen. Maybe please just spend 5 seconds to look at each one of them, look at the brands that they belong to, look at the things that you are seeing here. And then you tell me what is common among these 3 brands. Can you please put up the poll here? Right. So you can see the poll. What is common among these 3 brands? I've got 3 options here. Leaders in their segments, known for brand loyalty, favorite in their customer segment. Okay, some votes have already started pouring in. I would like to know more. I would encourage all of you to put in your ideas here. Let's see what people are saying. Okay, favorite in customer segment is taking a lead. Of course, all these are favorite in their segment. Okay, that is looking good. Okay. Okay, so the favorite is still the favorite choice also among the audience here. Right, so we have Coke here, we have Nike, and we have Mercedes-Benz. So these 3 things. Okay, so we have a good number here. I can see that 53% people are saying that it's the favorite in their customer segment. Their people next they are saying is they're known for brand loyalty, and then they're the leaders in their segment. We all know this is true. There was no one right answer. You could have picked all of them. I'm sure some of you have picked more than one also here. This is all true. Now, my question is why? Why is it that they are the favorites? So just think about it. Maybe think about it that why they are the favorites, why they are leading in their segments. People who drink Coke will only drink Coke. If you give them Pepsi, you give them thumbs up, they'll just not look at it. They would be drinking Coke. Mercedes-Benz has a customer loyalty of a level where people swear by these brands. But what has made the difference? What has made this whole transition where people are selecting just one brand over here? Just this one brand over all the other brands that are available. Now, you can see this on the screen. So Coke started this campaign in 2014 in Australia, where they came up with the idea of share a Coke. They created this campaign. They picked up 150 top Australian names and they replaced their iconic brand name from the bottle and replaced it with the names. Now just imagine seeing your own name on a Coke bottle. If I see Kalyani on a Coke bottle, I'll just fall in love with it. And that is the level of personalization we are talking about. This one campaign is the biggest example of offline personalization that has ever happened. In India also, they launched it further. They came up with this Dadi, Dada, Nani, Bhai. Now imagine you take one thing and you share it with your papa, you share it with your bhai, you share it with your friends. They were things like bestie. This is where they are personalizing it. Human nature is such. We need to connect emotionally. That is the biggest advantage you can have. So the moment you can connect emotionally with a customer, that's when you have made the mark. You have won their hearts, and they will not go away from you until unless you groove it up big time. If you see Nike here, I have given one example here where you can choose some color. So now we are flooded with options. We have so many options. If I want a pink shoe, if I don't find it in Nike, I'll go to Adidas, I'll go to Skechers. There are n number of brands available for me. But what Nike gives you here is it gives you the choice, the power to design your own shoe brand. Now here it is designing everything. You can select your sole, you can select the lace color, you can select the pattern, you can select the colors. You can make any permutation combination and design something which is exclusive for you. We all need exclusivity, right? So last but not the least, Mercedes-Benz. Mercedes-Benz, I have been told that there are thousands of features in Mercedes-Benz where you can customize. You can customize your own personal car, a car which nobody else would have. They have customization where you can change the steering type, you can change the rooftop, you can even change the thread of the seat covers. So can you imagine the level of customization they are offering? This is what makes them great. This is where they are connecting with their users. And this is what brings them to the level that they are in. They are the leader in their segments. So now, what ultimately are we gaining out of it? So if you see this word cloud here, customer experience, we are increasing customer experience, we are getting more audience, we are creating that personal connect, more engagement, more understanding. Ultimately, what? Leading to higher revenues. That's all we want, right? End of the day. Being product managers, we want our products to excel in the revenue segment. If I show you some numbers here, the statistics say that personalization has increased customer acquisition by 46%. Customer retention cost has gone down by 50%. The brand perception and brand loyalty has increased by 40%. Numbers can go on and on. These numbers are there for retention rates, for conversion rates. Everything increases if you personalize your product. That is what we are talking about. Now let's delve a bit deeper into what we understand with personalization, where we stand in terms of personalization in the current era, where we have tremendous amount of data coming in. We have such huge data that we don't even know what to do with so much of data. So there's something personalization and there is hyper personalization. It is segmented into two parts now: simple customizers, smart customizers. Simple customizers are what we were thinking maybe a couple of years ago, that you send a mail where you put hi followed by the first name, and you think that we have personalized this mail for the user. That's not the case anymore. That is taken for granted now. If I see 10 mails, 10 advertisement mails in my mailbox saying hi Kalyani, I might not even look at it until unless the subject line reads 10% off on Nike shoes, because I am looking to buy Nike shoes, because I want something, it is giving me a discount or an offer on something that I really want. That is what catches my attention. That is when I will open that mail. Now that is what I'm talking about as smart customizers. So if you're just in the order qualifier category, you'll always be the simple customizer. You need to be that order winner category. You need to make that extra effort, take one more leap forward to be the winner in the segment where you say that nobody else goes away from your brand. Moving forward, the next question is, are we really ready for personalization? It looks all fancy, all flashy. Okay, this all revenue, everything is increasing, everything is working out good. But are we really ready for it? What does it take? What would you need to even start with a strategy like this? First question that we should ask ourselves is, do we have enough data about our customers? The customer segmentation has to be on point. It might be a little broader to begin with. We will have a larger cohorts, but you need to go granular into it. You need to keep segmenting it further, maybe based on geography, maybe based on their age group, maybe based on their gender. The options are limitless now. Do we have that kind of data with us so that we can drive a strategy like this? Once we have enough data, once we know that we have enough data about our customers, what next? Do we have the resources to undertake personalization? Now, this is a long-term thing. Multiple things that you would need. You would need a team to work on the skills. You need data scientists. You need AI/ML engineers who would actually gain more insights out of this data. You need a particular team to curate the content, to do the marketing strategies right. You need money, of course, for all these things. And of course, another very important part is the sustainability. One time you win your customer's heart, you have set a standard now. Once you have set a standard, you need to maintain that standard and you have to rise higher. How do we do that? You need to have a dedicated team, which makes sure that all the strategies that you are putting in the backend is communicated to the user in the right way. Do you have a team for that? Do you have a specialized team for that? Once we have these things, the last and the most important thing is, do we have a process in place for validating the personalization ideas? Now, personalization, like any other idea, is a hypothesis until it is proven. So you have to go ahead with things like A/B testing. Go ahead, test your ideas, maybe pick up small focus groups from customers where you are testing your ideas, and then expand it to a larger group. That's how we do. But do we have the resources? Do we have a team who can validate it for us? Do we have team and resources to run extensive A/B testing? That's what we need for personalization. Now, the most important thing is to do it right. Personalization, if you Google on, if you Google on the topic that personalization failures, you will get n number of results over there. And it often fails because we have not understood the data right. What we need is to do it right. And how do we do it right? We align with our customer values. We make sure that our business strategies and the business teams are aligned with the values that we are trying to communicate with the user. It has to be sustainable. The competitiveness has to be sustainable. That, like I just mentioned, you have to make sure that you maintain your standards that you have created. Now, how do we do that? You have to make sure that every time you are coming up with a new idea, you are coming up with a new strategy, it is a level up from where you were standing earlier. It has to reach to a larger segment in the sense, I mean, more number of segments. It should be further granular. And last but not the least, personalization cost versus returns. All these things need money. All these things will need resources. We have to calculate that the amount of money that we are putting into a certain strategy, is my revenue going to exceed that? It's only then that we are doing it right. Because most of the companies fail in personalization, not because they were not able to acquire customers, but because they were not able to retain those customers and because they were not able to sustain it further. Now here, I would like to put up a poll for all of you that where you'll have to tell me that what are the challenges in this process. Now that we understand the process, now that we know what it takes to personalize, let's take up a poll. And I want you to tell me that what are the major challenges according to you to achieve this personalization. So we have cost of personalization, scalability as an issue, unsolicited customization, right marketing strategy, data management, all these things coming into picture. Okay, great. The results are coming up. I can see cost of personalization is taking the lead. Of course, with so many things that you have to take into consideration, the cost definitely goes high. Right marketing strategy is important, followed by data management, scalability, unsolicited customization. Great. So, okay, so I have considerable number here. Maybe I'll just wait for 30 seconds more for more people to vote in and put in their views. Oh, yes. I think I'll just end this poll. Great. So we have the results now, and I hope all of you can also see. So we see that the cost of personalization is taking the lead. We all understand why. Scalability is a big issue because when you're talking about small customer segments, the scalability becomes a big issue. You have customer segment of maybe say certain age groups and certain gender coming in. You have the multiple segments, the multiple focus segments that you have created. Will you be able to keep delivering the same kind of experience to those users over and over again? That is the scalability issue that comes in. Right marketing strategy, unsolicited customization. I have a couple of examples, very interesting examples to show you after this. Data management. See, a lot of data is coming in, and it's very important that we manage this data well. Be it the security, be it the understanding, be it learning from your data, be it managing your data. It is very important. We'll see all these things little more later. I'm just closing this poll. Yeah. So let's look at a couple of examples where it has, where I can show you about these challenges. Okay. Yeah. So this is one of the Airbnb product that came up with Floating World. They said how to spend a day or an entire trip without touching dry land. Your next aquatic adventure starts here. How beautiful does it sound? It says stay above water, live the life aquatic with these floating homes. Looks so serene, right? The image itself looks so serene. We just feel like you can just go there and away from all the chaos around us, all this work, all the family, all these things. You just want some break. And when you think of a vacation, this is the kind of image that comes into our mind. The perfect picture, right? The perfect marketing, all the things were fine. But something went wrong. You know what went wrong? They launched this campaign on August 28, 2017. And when this whole campaign had hit the media, the Hurricane Harvey was engulfing Houston. That was the time people were getting scared of water. So, do you think anybody would book this vacation then? Maybe they should have launched it after 2 months of this thing. They were ready with the whole idea, they pushed it into the market. But we have to see this. This is where the right marketing strategy comes into picture. This is why we have to be very careful what we are doing, how we are communicating, and how we are bringing it to the market. I'll show you one more example, a very fascinating example that you can see here. A flavored drink for cats and dogs. The thirsty cat, thirsty dog, two drinks for the fish. There is the tangy fish flavor for the cat, and there is the crispy beef flavor for the dog. How does it sound? Interesting, right? You know, cats would love the tangy fish flavor, dogs would love the beef flavor. They will drink this water, and this was for the US market. So in US market, almost 50 to 60% of households have pets in their home. So you definitely have a huge market. You have done that right. Everything looks perfect, right? This was supposed to be a big hit. This was a foolproof product that was going into the market. It was supposed to be a big hit, but then it failed. It failed because we somewhere forgot our basics. It failed because the user might like it, but the buyer here is the owner. And owner is fine with the idea of their pet drinking the normal water. They don't have to buy a flavored water for their pets. Now, this is what is unsolicited customization. Nobody asked for it. You thought it is great. You thought it is wonderful idea. People love their pets. They treat their pets like babies. They would buy these things, but then no, they didn't. This was unsolicited. We should be refraining from these kind of things. We should be refraining from such ideas. So this was a quick example that I could give you here. Now let's talk. What do we need for personalization? What are the tools that we have? And a little bit of tutorial around how do we go about it? What is the way forward from here? So as you can see in the left side here.
Kalyani, quick time check, maybe 3-4 minutes more.
Sure.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. So you can see here, predictive analytics is a big thing in now. What you need to take into consideration is user experience. Keep the user always in the center. The user has to be in the center stage for your product planning throughout. We all know this. We have by hearted this by now. The user experience, is this going to improve the user experience? Content curation, for each personalization that we are doing, are we creating the right content to market it the right way? Personalized marketing comes into picture like that. Of course, AI powered hyper personalization, that is the in thing, but then it is very important that we understand the data in the right way. And that is what comes in here. So you gather customer data, you have to understand the data, you have to bring the insights out of the data, you have to learn from data, we have to use it in the right way, and we have to manage it in the right way. I come from a healthcare background, so I know how important it is to maintain security of the data. Your customers are trusting you with their data, and that is one place that we should not be losing on. If we have taken their data, we have to make sure that we are taking care of the data. Data is power, that they say, and with the huge power comes huge responsibilities. So that is the thing. So we gather all the customer data, then we develop personalization skills. We develop our team, which will bring personalization using those data. You atomize your content, you curate your content, you curate the content so that it reaches the right people in the right time. We make sure that we are not sending a mass message around any personalization. You have to enrich your technology with creativity and sustainability. Sustainability is one term that I have been highlighting, and we must focus on it. Personalization is not a one-day thing. It has to go in the long run. Improve your marketing performance. Everything will go into trash if we are not doing the right marketing here. So here I would just want to show you one example before I end this whole presentation. Shutterfly. So recently, this was some 4 5 years back, I guess, where Shutterfly was doing a personalization, and they sent these kind of pictures with all babies and all motherhood thing, and they are welcome to the new you. Send your baby announcement in this way. We can help you create this baby announcement. That's the ad that they gave, and they sent it to a lot of people. But then what they missed is they sent it to people who are dealing with infertility. This is where you are playing with emotions. When I talk about personalization, it is where you are bringing the emotions in it. And once you play with the emotion of your customer, the customer is never going to come back. This is something that we have to have focus on. Whenever you are touching a very sensitive topic, be it color, be it things like this, you have to be very careful that how we are messaging it and whether we are messaging it for the right people. That is what it is all about. So I would just like to end it with this note. The personalization is pointless without knowing the individual. You need to know your customer right. Understand the dreams, hopes, and fears that motivate your customers, and then hit them where it counts. So I hope it was helpful. I hope you guys will use this and you will make the most of personalization in your products and in your projects and companies. I'll be happy to connect and I'll be happy to take any questions that are there. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kalyani. Product managers are supposed to be on the engineering side, and thank you for closing on the philosophical note. Sometimes we forget that angle, especially when you're into B2C. It's really important, and the question is also related to that. So, in your opinion, personalization, is it mostly applicable to B2C or is it applicable to B2B as well?
It is very much applicable to B2B. So one thing, I come from a background where I've worked with both B2B and B2C projects. So I'll just give you a small example. So how we do it. So in my segment, we deal with a lot of pharmaceutical companies. Our marketing team reaches out to them and tells them that what we are doing, how we personalize it. So the mail, as I told you, has to go beyond putting the first name there. What I do is I go to their LinkedIn profiles. I go and see who are my bio personas, who are my user personas, and what are they currently working on. Suppose if somebody is working on a respiratory drug, and if I tell them about my expertise in cardiac diseases drug, then it's not going to be of any use. They will just trash it. I might be the best in the world in cardiac diseases, but then they don't need it. I have to focus on the thing that they need. If somebody is working on respiratory diseases, I'll tell them my expertise in respiratory diseases. I send them the examples, the projects that I've worked in, the case studies that we have in that segment. So you have to be very sure about these things. You have to do account based marketing in that case. You have to go with the right messaging in the in trial phase. So most of these B2B products are into trial versions where you have freemiums in place. So when the user is in the in trial phase, then you give the right messaging. Then you see what the user is using your product for. If your product has maybe 10 features and the user is using 3 out of them extensively, then your marketing should go around it. And you should encourage the user that this is what you need, this is what we have. Now go for a full paid version. So something around that you have to see and tweak to your personal needs.
Sure. So it's more specific to each organization customization and also to the individuals.
Right.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kalyani. Please accept the token of appreciation from IPL for amazing
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure being here. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Meeta.
Most welcome. So people, if you would like to connect to Kalyani, feel free to do so. She's here to stay for next 30 minutes at least. So please feel free to ask your questions if you have any further question.